Salary was almost triple what I was earning as a chef in the UK. Summer in the Med, winter in the Caribbean, 2 months off, 2 flight ticket, triple my salary. I mean, it was a no-brainer. There was no way I was going to pass on that job. In the US today, there is about 900 billionaires and there is about 12,000 centimillionaires. So people that have $100 million or more. Do you think they have a private chef? And Furkan, personality as a private chef is the number one thing that it's gonna burn you. If you're not a nice person, if you're not polite, if you're not respectful, you're not gonna get the job. Don't get me wrong. If you cannot cook, you're not gonna get the job.
That's the baseline.
You might be the best, you might be the nicest guy or the nicest girl. If you cannot cook, I'm sorry, but it's gonna be a tough one.
If you ask most chefs what their career looks like, they will describe restaurants, service, brigade, progression, maybe opening their place one day. But there's another world that most chefs don't really see. Private chefs. Working inside homes, traveling with families, building long-term relationships, and in some cases, building entire businesses around it. You're listening to Fugitive Chefs, a podcast about what happens when chefs step outside the traditional kitchen path. I'm Furkan. I've worked in kitchens like Noma and Mugaritz, and today I work outside, currently as a senior innovation chef at Kraft Heinz. Today's guest is Chris Desmaillet, founder of Montclair Chef Agency, where he connects private chefs with high net worth families across the world. Chris spent over 2 decades as a chef, including years as a private and a super yacht chef, before building a business that sits right at the intersection of talent, lifestyle, and high-end cooking. And this conversation is about something most chefs don't understand: what this world actually looks like, how it works, and what does it take to enter it. Hey Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Furkan, for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to be here. Excited to get into the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen your journey. I'm like, for me, it's so funny how I find guests for this podcast, right? Because it's like such unique journeys. I can't just look up 3 Michelin Star chef or a 2 Michelin Star chef or chefs who work in hotels. All of us are such different careers that it's very difficult to like find profiles like yours. And I think yours I found through, I would say, LinkedIn, some stuff on Instagram. And it's not classically, I mean, how do you describe yourself? Before I do it, let's put it on you. Wow. How would you say to somebody who knows a bit about being a chef, what do you do today for work?
Look, I am not a chef anymore, even though I don't think you can ever take off your apron and stop being a chef, because once you've done it for so long, it never really leaves you. But I worked as a chef professionally for 25 years. So I did, I think, 6 years in restaurants. The last restaurant I worked at was a 3-star Michelin in the UK. The Waterside Inn, amazing place.
Nice.
Lovely kitchen, lovely chefs there, amazing menus. I think they have held the 3 stars for probably close to 40 years.
Yeah, it's a legendary place, I mean.
Yeah, amazing place. So that was the last restaurant I worked at. And after that, I worked on Superyachts. And I worked as a private chef. So I spent about 19 years. So last 19 years of my career, I was working between Superyachts and as a private chef in high-profile families in their private residences. In their, when they went away, I traveled with them, traveled on a private jet, and followed them around the world. So it was a very glamorous job title. It was hard, but it was also amazing to work and to get close to these high-profile clients.
Yeah, super interesting, right? And before we get into Montclair Chef, because I'm really interested in your brand, what you're building with the business.
This is the latest, is what I do now after the 25 years.
That's the last stage, right? But before that, for you, Chris, I mean, how does somebody who's working in, as you say, you work 25 years in kitchens, from there, the natural progression that people get taught through culinary school or seeing other people who are the mentors you're following through your career, right? You're in your head, it goes like, okay, once I reach that level, the next step is to find a financier, investor, open a restaurant, and then open 2 restaurants and 3 restaurants. And that's how logically the progression goes for those who do not have the exposure to careers like yours. For you, what happened? Why did you switch into being a private chef or being on a super yacht? What was the attraction there?
Okay, so there's a few things that happened. First, after I worked at the Waterside Inn, so the 3-star, I worked very hard for a year and a half. I discovered amazing recipes, technique, and I built some really strong friendship with the chef that was working there. But after that, I really wanted to travel. So I was in the UK, after spending 3 years in England, I really wanted to get out and maybe go to Asia, maybe go to the US. I was really open to anywhere in the world. I just wanted to travel. I had my backpack ready. And I applied to many jobs. Honestly, like I just browsed the internet and I looked for what was available, and I just sent a CV here, sent a CV there, and just I tried my luck everywhere. The stamp, the free Michelin Star training really helped because I
That
got a lot
helps.
of reply. A lot of people were interested because once you spend a decent amount of time in one of these kitchens, people trust you and they know that you can bring a lot to the table, so they want to hire you. So that was great. But what happened is by pure coincidence, one of the job I applied for was actually on a super yacht. So we were talking before we started recording about
Yeah.
cruise ship and working on the boat. This was not a cruise ship. This was a private yacht that was owned by I think it was a Ukrainian billionaire at the time. We're talking that's 23 years ago now. So a long time
Oh,
ago.
wow.
Back in the day when there was no war between Russia and Ukraine, and
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
Russian and the Ukrainian they were still one of the biggest super yacht owners, and they were this family that I worked for, I think they had 6 or 7 yachts, and by yacht I mean 50 meters, 80 meters, 40 meters. So we're talking like a fleet of super yachts. So they were very wealthy, and the captain was looking for a sous chef. So I got invited for an interview on the boat. The boat was in the south of France, in Nice. They paid for my ticket. They paid for my taxi from the airport. So for me, it was like, wow, like this is like VIP. I love it. And I joined the boat. Or I joined the captain on the boat for the interview in Nice. And let me tell you, when I saw the yacht the first time, I was just speechless. I mean, coming from a humble background for me, I grew up in France in a small village. There was about 500 people in the village. Then I went to the UK. It was the first time I went on a plane. So for me, it was like, this little French guy from the countryside. And then arriving to Nice in the south of France, seeing this multi-million-dollar yacht, it was amazing. And I got onto the boat. He showed me around. We had an interview, and he said to me, "Look, you can think about it. I would like to hire you." And I went back home, and I thought about it. And I mean, it was already done for me. I was like, "Yeah, look, I want to do that," because the promise was amazing. Because we did spend the summer in the Med, so cruising around France, Italy, Greece, Croatia, like all around the Med. And the winter, we would cross the Atlantic with the boat and get into the Caribbean and spend the whole season in the Caribbean. So imagine for me, and on top of that, the package was very interesting because it was almost triple what I was earning as a chef in the UK. They were giving me 60 days, so 2 months of holidays per year. They were paying for 2 return flights to my home port to my home location. So for me, summer in the Med, winter in the Caribbean, 2 months off, 2 flight ticket, triple my salary. I mean, it was a no-brainer. There was no way I was going to pass on that job. Plus, working for a billionaire and for a really high-profile family was amazing, because working at the waterside, I used to, most of the clients we had at the waterside were high-profile families, because to go into a 3-star Michelin, okay, there's a lot of people that go for wedding, anniversary, parties, and but there's also a lot of there's also a lot of high-profile family that goes there. So I used to cook for them, but I never saw them. And for me, going on the yacht and working for them as their private chef on the yacht was an incredible chance that I took.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? Also the exposure I think you get, because I feel there's a lot of shocking things about this industry. Also, like what you pointed out very clearly, like the difference between working on a cruise ship, which is much more like a mass kind of catering, compared to doing it for a high net worth family. And then upon that, the kind of exposure you get to kind of produce, you can access. Because I have some friends who've been on this in this sort of a business, working in Saudi Arabia and Caribbean, and they all speak about the amount of produce you can get access to, the kind of wishes people have.
No limit. There is no limit in what you can get, because in a restaurant, you have to look at your margin, you have to look at the profit, you have to look at the bottom line. On a yacht, there is nothing of that. The goal is not the profit. The goal is to keep the owners and the guests satisfied with their trip and their experience.
Wow.
So they spend a lot of money, and your job as a chef is to get the best beef, the best seafood, the best herbs, the best fruit, the best of everything. And you often have quite a decent budget for equipment as well in your kitchen, in your galley. So it's incredible. If you're passionate and you love cooking, and you really want to reach out, to the best produce and create the best menus, it's incredible.
Yeah, and I think that's what some people underestimate, because I feel it can be seen as a profession where you're like going away from the classic path and maybe the growth is not that much. But I feel like if somebody does that with a very clear mindset of what they want from the experience, of course, you said all the benefits that come with it. Plus, there is the level that you're getting to work with the most talented people, I think, because these people will hire the most talented, which is now the industry that you're working with. And then the amount of stuff you can learn, the produce that possibly in a restaurant you'll have. If you're growing in a restaurant, they might not even give you access to that sort of a produce. You get to use that produce, work with it, understand also, I mean, yes, there is no limits to the amount of budgets, but then that's a very different kind of creativity, right? How do you impress somebody who's seen everything, and how do you be creative for those people? I think that's, for me, very interesting. But for you, what were the big surprises of working, of the things that you assumed before getting this job and the things that were an eye-opener for you working on this job?
Look, one of the biggest wake-up call I had as a chef coming straight from a Michelin Star kitchen. Remember, I used to work in this freestyle, and then I got onto this yacht, and I started cooking with my my Michelin Star chef hat on, if you want. And then you quickly realize that you need to keep some of it, but a lot of it, you cannot use it on a yacht. You cannot use it as a private chef. But look, I was the sous chef or the crew chef. So I was there to help the head chef, because the head chef was cooking mainly for guests and for the owners. And I was the crew chef / sous chef. So I was cooking for the crew. I was cooking for the crew 7 days a week. And I was helping the head chef with pastry, with starters, with, anything he needed. So we were really a team. I had like clear task, which was crew food, and he had guest food. And in the middle, we would join hands and we would just, I would help him on the guest meals. So the food I was cooking in the freestyle is not what I could cook for the crew, because the crew wanted, they wanted burgers, they wanted fish and chips, they wanted curry, they wanted scrambled eggs and bacon for breakfast, they wanted all this stuff. So the trick there was to become almost a different chef, keep the standard, keep the level of perfection that you want to reach and you have to reach as a Michelin star as a Michelin trained chef. But when you were cooking for crew, you had to cook everyday food. You had to make, meat pie for the guy that was from Australia. You had to make perhaps some pasta every day, because there was the engineers that would only eat carbs and only eat meat and potatoes almost. And then you had to make very healthy, colorful salads, because you had a whole team of interior stewardesses that would eat like, not like the guys. So they would want more veggies and more salad and more healthy stuff. So it was a right balance between all of this. So that was really interesting, because also I had to get better at Mexican food. I had to get better at sushi, at Indian food, at I don't know, like you name it, barbecue food. Like you had to create all kind of different menus for this crew, and that was really interesting, because the skill was not to pushing yourself into a tasting menu, but it was really to create the best. If you do back ribs, you had to make the best barbecue sauce. You would make your own barbecue sauce. The best ribs, the best burgers, you make your own burger buns, and the best patty. And either you keep the meat or you mix the meat with. So there was a lot of ways to create excellent food, but to keep it at a normal level, I want to say. So it was just day-to-day, everyday food. And then the guest food would be different, because the guests would come and they was expecting, sushi on a first night, and then the second lunch would be this Thai, buffet style menu, and the next dinner would be more of a tasting French menu. So it would be like really two different type of cuisine.
Yeah, and I think that's also because I think it's such a unique position you play there, because these people are at sea, they are far from their families, they're also like working on this ship. Yeah. So like you are their exposure. So I can completely understand the amount of expectations they have from you. But what are the expectations of the people who hire you? Like, what's the hiring process like? What do they look for? And basically, what makes somebody a good or a bad candidate in this kind of a specific environment to be a chef on a super yacht?
Are you talking about a chef on a yacht or a private chef? Because now that's what we do with Montclair Chef is we place mostly private chef, and also we got maybe 2/3, 1/3. So 1/3 would be yacht chefs. So they're two different type of roles. So which one do you want me to get into?
I would love both, because I was not aware that there's a big difference, but I can imagine, because you are in a yacht, you're limited to access to things. So how are these different? First of all,
different jobs. The game is the same, but it's different jobs, because one, as a yacht chef, you're gonna be you might just start picking up guests on a Friday or the Saturday. You might leave the dock, and you might not go back on the dock until 7 days later. So you have to
Right.
make sure you have your provision. You have to make sure you're gonna be okay with your menu. You have to make sure you don't forget anything. And then you have to be able to cook if there is a bit of rough seas. I mean, now that these yachts are, they're full of tech and they almost don't move, but they still rock a little bit. So are you okay cooking when when the sea is not stable? So you have to be able to do all of that. So that's very tricky. And then as a yacht chef, again, you could be alone as well. You could be what you call a sous chef. So on a boat up to 50 meters, you're gonna be a sous chef. So you're alone, basically cooking for
Wow.
up to 10 to 12 crew, and then you have 10 to 12 guests. So again, two different menus, 3 times a day, for two different kind of people. So home style cooking for the crew, very healthy, very to keep them happy, basically, because like you said, they're not going home every day or every night. So you have to keep them happy with the food. This is the thing they look forward to. And for the guest, it was totally different. They might want to have sushi one day. They might want to have burger. They might want to have an Italian night. They might want to have some, I don't know. There is so many different type of menu you have to be able to deliver for them. And these guests, they are either owning the yacht or they charter the yacht. So they're still pretty wealthy. They know their food. They usually go to the best restaurant, so they have very high expectations. So that's the yacht chef part.
Right.
If you go into the private chef, it's a very, very different kind of work because you still need to go to the shop. You still need to find your suppliers. You can either be a one-off, when you're just gonna go do one dinner for a guest or a family that has hired you because they have a villa in the south of France. They want a chef on Friday, and you come and you just deliver the experience for one night, and that's it. You clean up, you go home. Thank you very much. You get paid. Or you have the other type of chef where you are actually employed by this high-profile family, which is what we specialize at Montclair Chef. We really specialize in full-time, long-term private chef placement. So those are the elite of the private chef. Not everyone can get this type of job because they're very specific in what they're looking for, this family, and they're hiring full-time chef that are only taking care of their family. So this is, again, it's two different jobs. Again, this type of family, they have high demand, high expectation. They might have kids. They might have nannies around that take care of the kids. So you have to feed the nannies. You have to feed the kids. You have to feed the parents. And sometimes they just want simple food. They just want well-cooked roasted chicken, or they just want, a nice tomato salad. So they could be very basic. They are often really, really looking after what they eat, and they want to make sure it's healthy, it's organic, it's well cooked, it's no seed oil, no. So there's a lot of things that can go into this. So two different jobs. One job is you are at sea in the middle of nowhere with a crew that you get you get acquainted with, and you know them because you've been working with them for the whole season, and then you can have the guests that come and go from the boat. And the other one is you work in the principal's house and you are their private chef and you cook only for them, and you come from breakfast to dinner or maybe from lunch to dinner, and you stock up their fridge, you take care of their kitchen, you cook for the kids, cook for the nanny, cook for the parents. So it's really two different environments, and they're quite connected because often the people that charter the yachts will have a chef at home. So if you are a yacht chef for 10, 15 years, usually at the end of that time period, you just start thinking about, okay, what am I going to do next? And you start looking into, hey, I could probably transfer these skills ashore and become a private chef, and then keep the kind of the same living expenses and my earning, and become a private chef for one of these families. So it's still very connected, both of them.
Yeah, it's a very interesting transition that you mentioned, Chris. But also, I would like to understand when people, like you mentioned about people from yacht chef yacht chef work transferring into private chef business. But when people who come out of restaurants, like who haven't had either of these experiences, I bet there's a lot of stuff that is useful from the restaurant, like the working in the restaurant, as you said, the Michelin-starred, like the level of details, of understanding produce, of how to do your basics. Of course, that's transferable. But what are the skills you think that you don't learn at restaurants that you have to learn in these kind of careers? What is there something that sticks out that people have to equip themselves with between this transition phase?
Absolutely, Furkan. There's the most important skill is the people skills.
Yeah.
Is the as a chef, and I was the first one. I can put my hand up and I can say I was the first one. I was really good at cooking. I was really good at focusing, at being fast, at being efficient and consistent. But talking to guests was something that I really struggled with at the beginning because I was not front of house. I was always back in the kitchen, and I was, it took me a while to really understand that I had to smile. Even just smiling to the guests was something I felt like I was faking it because it was not a natural smile. But then it became more, you get used to it. But talking to guests is something that it was really tricky for me. So you gotta, you have to learn to talk to your clients, to show your face, to show the menu, explain as well the story behind each dishes, because people love to hear a story. And sometimes as a chef, you don't think of the story, you just think of, oh, I'm just gonna put this ingredient and this together and I'm gonna make this type of sauce, and for you it makes sense in your head. But now you have to get it out of your head and just put it on the table and tell the clients, look, I chose this tomato with this dressing because we are here in Italy. And, there's a lot of things that goes around creating a menu and putting it together that you have to take out of your head and just present it to the guest. So you're basically working on the marketing of the dish, if you will. And that's something I wasn't really good at the beginning, but after many repetitions, I became better. And it's very important because people, they want that. They want to hire a private chef or yacht chef, and they want a chef to come to the table and they want to understand, so chef, why are we having this tonight? Or what's in the sauce? Or how do you cook this chicken? So it's a lot of storytelling that you have to learn. And I think as a waiter or as a front of house, you used to do it. But as a chef, it doesn't come, it's not always natural for you as a chef to do it. So it's something you gotta, if you're not good at it, just get out there and talk to the guest. And you're gonna get used to it.
I feel, as you said, in your words, I think it doesn't just come natural. The soft skills or presentation, communication doesn't come natural. But also what you said, I feel there are people who are listening and they feel, okay, yeah, Chris is right. I lack that. And what you said, I mean, there are opportunities these days, especially if you're working at Michelin-starred restaurants. There is the whole culture of being the chef, being present, and they send even like chef de parties. I've seen at restaurants who go and talk to the guests, especially if you speak a language which the guest speaks. I think there's a lot of opportunities. I feel there are people who, in every kitchen, you see people who are good at it and bad at it, and the ones who are not good at it, they stick to being in that bubble and say, okay, my colleague will do it. Let me just focus on the cooking. But I think it's very important, especially if you have this image for yourself, be it being a private chef, be it being on a yacht, be it somebody who becomes a teacher tomorrow and teaches their skills. I feel in all of these, communication is key. And I encourage people to, in their current environment, if they can tap into that kind of these kind of skills, how can you learn that? Maybe possibly from your peers who are good at it, and somebody in your environment who's good at it, you can just ask them, what I would love to serve the next dish. Maybe you can give me some tips. But that's very interesting for me, what you discovered with the personal journey that you saw for yourself. And Chris, also one thing that you explored or like you tapped into is that at some point you transitioned from being a private chef to building Montclair, the chef agency. So with Montclair, what triggered that shift for you? Did you see some sort of a gap in the market where you said, okay, this is a role that a chef who has been in those shoes can fill? What was the idea for the agency?
That's a good question, Furkan. Look, what happened is very simple. Before I even started Montclair Chef, I was working as a private chef, and what happened is I realized that there was not a lot of network online. So now there is more groups, there is more communities of chefs and private chefs. But at the time, we're talking about, I think probably 7 to 8 years ago, I couldn't find a place online where there was only private chef or only yacht chefs. So the way it really started was very simple. I created a Facebook group called Yacht Chef Wanted, and then I created Private Chef Wanted. And then this group grew to, I think now Private Chef Wanted has 110,000 chefs on it.
Oh, Facebook. Wow.
And Yacht Chef Wanted, I think we are almost at 40,000 chefs. So the way this community works was very simple. It was a place to just post jobs, ask questions, share your CV, and basically connect with other chefs. So my idea, it was very selfish when I started it. I just wanted to be able to reach out to other chefs, and I wanted to be able to ask questions, to share ideas. And I was looking for, because, this is one thing when you work as a private chef or as a yacht chef, is it can be a very lonely role, a very lonely position. So you come out from a Michelin Star team or even a restaurant team, and there is 2, 4, 10, sometimes 25 chefs in the kitchen, and there is this sort of camaraderie and like this friendship that you build with other chefs. And after the service, it's cleanup time, and everyone is joking, and you can relax, and then you go out for a drink, and there's all of this, and there's the staff kitchen and the staff canteen, and you go there and you have your meal. So this is the way you interact. When you work as a private chef, you don't have a lot of this. So you of course you're working with other people, but you're not working with other chefs. So you're missing that connection. So that's what I was lacking when I was a private chef. So I built a group. And then what happened is after a couple of years, the group were growing pretty fast and very organically. There was no marketing. There was just, all I did with it was I was keeping it clean. So I was making sure there was no one advertising on it. There was only private chef and yacht chef jobs. So it was a lot of work for me, but I took pride in like, this is my community. I want to keep it clean. So I was just making sure people was posting the right thing. And what happened is I was looking for a sous chef. And what I did is I just posted in one of these groups, and within 24, 36 hours, I had like a lot of very, very good chefs that apply. And I realized, hey, this could be potentially an idea here. It's like, perhaps I created not only a community, but also a place to find and to connect with all these chefs. So that's how I started. I started like this, and then an old friend of mine was looking for a chef, so I used the platform again. And then the captain was looking for a chef, so I used the platform again. And I was like, okay, there's potentially something here. So this is how Montclair Chef was built. I launched it almost by pure coincidence. It was just that wasn't the goal when I started it, but then I was like, okay, there is something here. And Furkan, after 25 years in kitchens, I think it's very important for chef, and it was important for myself, to start building in your head something that, like, I don't want to say an exit plan, but what do you want to do in the future? Do you see yourself cooking and being a chef when you turn 40 and 50 and when you get close to 60? Or do you want to open your own restaurant? Or do you want to maybe create something that is totally different to what other people have built? So that means, start thinking about what you can do after, start saving money. And all of this was, for me, very important when I launched Montclair Chef, because obviously when you start a business, you gotta quit your job, you gotta stop earning a salary, and you go to launch a business from nothing, and there is zero client, there is no marketing, there is no SEO, and there is no website. So you have to really start it from scratch, and you have to build it. And of course, the thing you build when you start is not what you have 6 months later, and it's not what Montclair Chef is today. There's a whole evolution into what the company is today, and it took me a while, and that's how Montclair Chef was started. Basically, it was not a business first.
Yeah, it's a very natural evolution. Like for you, that's very cool. I think the very non-business idea that you had of making a Facebook group, connecting with the right people, and I feel that transitioning into a full-fledged business. But what is it like for you today? Because for somebody listening who has heard about how you were working in Michelin-starred restaurants, then you worked on yacht, then as a private chef, and then you found this niche where that you have this agency, right? Like people would think like, okay, it's a recruitment agency. It just places people with the right. So it has two sides of the network, the chefs and the families, and it connects it. But I think it has to be more complex than that, right? Like what part of your chef part is useful today? What is your day-to-day? Like I think your day-to-day might be different, but how's your week or a month like?
Furkan, look, the chef part is essential behind Montclair Chef, because if I was not a chef, I would not be able to place the chef that we place today. I would not be able to convince the clients that get in touch with us today that we can help them. Because the key part with Montclair Chef is we only do chefs, we only do private chefs, and we only work with the client that we really trust, understand what the private chef will need. So it's very important, because the entire business is based behind my experience, and is based behind my ability to recognize when a chef is qualified, when a chef understands what the role is. And also, and that comes down to my experience, because, when I review a portfolio from a chef, it takes me about 30 seconds. I can look at the photos, and of course you can say, okay, a photo does not represent who a person is. And I agree. But the photo you choose to post online on your own profile to advertise your services and your skills, they are the one you have chosen. This is the dishes you have created. This is the food you have prepared. This is the way you have cut it. This is the way you have plated. This is the truth. Everything comes down to what you have put out there that represent yourself as a brand. And again, it's your marketing. I like to tell chefs that your portfolio is your way to market yourself out there to people that don't know you. So the way you prepare your CV, the way you choose the photo that you're going to post online, all of this is very important. And then when you zoom into the photos, for me, I never take my chef jacket off in my head. I just look at the photo and I'm like, this is a dish that I'm going to send to my clients, to my guests. What is right? What is wrong with it? And I'm going to say, okay, this is the grill mark are not they're not quite perpendicular. The sear on the scallops is too dark. And the tomatoes are a bit too this. And, you can see so many things from a photo. You can, because you think of like, okay, if I did it, let me analyze it. Is it right or is it wrong? So there's a lot I can see from a portfolio. And again, portfolio is not everything, because people can also steal photo online. They can take photos from a restaurant. They can go and do a very nice pastry course, and they're gonna spend 10 days taking photos of the dishes that the chef has made. So it's gonna be perfect. So again, the skill here is to understand what the portfolio is. Is it really what the chef has done? Is it a perfect magazine-like photo? Which means it's not gonna translate very well into a private chef position, because the family, they're not going to wait for the chef to take a photo with the perfect light. There's not going to be a whole team to make the perfect chocolate bonbon. And, so all of this is very important. And sometimes chefs are really worried about taking photos and putting photo on their portfolio, because they tell me, hey, Chris, the light was not good. I didn't have time. I just took it with my phone. And this is something that come back a lot. And I said, hey, this is what I want. I want real photos of the food you cook for a family, because the family that's going to look at your portfolio, they want to see what they're going to eat tomorrow. So if it's something that you've served to a family, it's going to have more value to them than if it's something you cooked with a team of 10 chefs in a 3-star restaurant in London, because they know that you're not going to be able to reproduce it. So you're going to say, wow, amazing photo, amazing portfolio, but can you do it in an hour and a half in my kitchen that you've never been in before, when we are traveling to Brazil or to San Diego? So this is the way that we and I can identify the best chef. And then this is one of the way. Again, don't get me wrong. There's many ways. There is also the video interview. How is the chef answering the question? Is the chef on time? How are you answering your emails? What is your profile photo? Are you smiling? Are you wearing sunglasses? What do you let people see on social media? Because I'm saying let's see, because it's not what you choose to show them. But if you keep your portfolio, your social media account open, people are gonna they're going to go on Google, type your name. And if you see someone that parties a lot, someone that just put a lot of, I don't know, it could be political. It could be, there's so many things you can put online. There's so many things you can comment on LinkedIn. Just look at what someone has posted. Look at what the comment they have put online. And this is going to tell you a lot about someone's personality. Are they calm? Are they positive? Are they negative? Are they complaining? So there's a lot of things you can do to judge someone's personality. And Furkan, personality as a private chef is the number one thing that it's gonna burn you. If you're not a nice person, if you're not polite, if you're not smiling, if you're not respectful, you're not gonna get the job. And I'm sorry to say, but this is because you're gonna work in billionaires' houses, you're gonna work in the kitchen, and you have to be someone that they want to have in the house. You have to be someone that people want to be. You have to be someone that people want to be around with. So it's not about cooking. It's not just about cooking. You have to be a good chef. You have to present yourself. You have to be a little bit clever as well, the way you present yourself. You have to, have the right attitude, and you have to cook super well as well. Don't get me wrong. If you cannot cook, you're not gonna get the job.
That's the baseline.
You might be the best. You might be the nicest guy or the nicest girl. If you cannot cook, I'm sorry, but it's gonna be a tough one.
Yeah, no, that's a given for sure. But I mean, I think through this, the question I asked you, you've like uncovered so many of these things which people underestimate, or I think don't give enough value to. But especially in a place where you are isolated in somebody's, I think the fact that you mentioned in somebody's own house, I think that's people don't give enough credit to that. Somebody's letting you in their own private, personal space, especially for people like these who are more private with their lives and having that space. I think you have to be somebody that you, as you said, have to be comfortable around. So I think that's something.
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm thinking.
No, please add.
I'm gonna give you 3 tips for everyone that goes into a cooking trial, because that's so important, and this is
super useful
for me. It's natural. Why do I have to tell people? But if you go into a private residence for a cooking trial, make sure you have a clean jacket. Okay. I know it sounds, but some people don't. Make sure you don't put too much perfume, because I had a client telling me, hey, we had a chef, he came and he was a disaster because there was two things that that chef did wrong. One, the chef put so much perfume that the guests were distracted. They were like, they couldn't understand why you would put so much. So again, I think the chef was trying to present well, but less is more on that one. Second thing, or third thing, after the jacket, the perfume, the third thing is the chef went smoking. The client told me that the chef was outside every 5 minutes
No
smoking
way.
cigarettes. And I think maybe the chef was stressed, and I understand if you're stressed, that it's sometimes it's very hard to handle your stress and you don't know what to do. But
But
this
it's
is the
basic
feedback that I got
hygiene,
from the
man.
client.
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
hygiene as well, so you have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
make sure, like, present well, be careful, because it's not, when you go for a cooking trial, they're not testing just the food. They're trying out your personality as well. So are you smiling? Are you looking at them in the eye? Are you shaking their hand? Are you, cleaning up after yourself? When you leave the kitchen, is it cleaner than it went before you arrived? Because, sometimes the kitchen is not so clean, but you know what? Go the extra mile. Just clean a little bit the oven more than it was before. Tell the principal, hey, I just left this here for you. I labeled it. I put a little container in the fridge of the leftovers. All of these small details, it's going to make a difference, and it's going to make them want you in their kitchen, because they're going to think you take control of the kitchen and you know what you're doing.
Damn, Chris, super useful. The tips you've given, I feel that's exactly what I wanted to ask you for, because people listening, they're like, okay, that's great information. I aspire to be this person. I think I got it in myself. I think I want to make the portfolio next. But I feel the knowledge that you're giving with these tips that you've given about people walking into a trial, I feel that's of course, the portfolio is the step and the video interview, but the final nail in the head is once you're there with the family, right? If they say yes or no. And I think these tips you're going to be given are going to be super useful. And I'm also trying to understand from you, because you're in this industry now on the recruiting side. When people talk about being a private chef in these sort of families, in high net worth families, from the outside, it looks like a very small industry. It looks like a niche, because I think also intentionally, because these families, of course, are not there in your televisions and newspapers putting ads to put chefs, right? So it's a very hidden industry. It still seems very small when you look at it from the outside. How big it really is, because you are in it now and getting demands, right?
I've done my market research, so
Okay.
I know a little bit about how big is the market. At least let's just look at the US only.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you two metrics, and then you can just tell me if that means there is potentially a lot of chef jobs or not. In the US today, there is about, and again, we can be off by a few hundred there, but there is about 900 billionaires in the US.
Wow.
And there is about 12,000 centimillionaires, so people that have $100 million or more. Okay, so that's about 13,000 families that are way above $100 million. Do you think they have a private chef?
I bet, and I would be surprised if they don't have more than one.
Exactly. So that gives you an idea of how big the market is in the US.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not fooling myself. I know there is maybe only 50% that have a chef. There is maybe, again, 50% of those that have a full-time chef, because maybe they don't want to have someone in their house all day long. And then maybe some of them, they just, I don't know. But there is,
and like the individual opportunities, right? Like the one you mentioned where the chef comes in and leaves on a weekend, I feel that's also something that happens much more often, because when I go to websites and Facebook groups, I see a lot of requests for, like, we are going to south of France for a weekend, as you said, or we are going to this place in Caribbean. You want somebody just for the weekend. Yeah.
This is not the full-time chefs. Again, what I mentioned was only the US market.
Right.
Then you have Europe, you have the UK, you have Spain, you have the, Ibiza. You have all these places where there is chef that their sole business is to be a private chef, and they are self-employed. They don't work for anyone. They have their own business. They have their own website, and they have, they go on, people find them online and they hire them for a week or for a night or for a month or for the whole summer. So this chef is also, it's also another part. And Furkan, this is why I wrote the private chef guide. It's to really help people understand when they come from restaurant and they want to become a private chef. There is a lot of things you want to know, and there's a lot of things you probably don't think about when you want to start or when you start. There's still a lot of things you have no idea about. So I wrote the private chef guide a few months ago. I think it was about 3 months ago now it came out. So you can find it at theprivatechefguide.com.
Oh, perfect.
this book is not a very long book, but this is basically 20 years of my experience condensed into a guide, easy to read for chefs. So you don't have to be, because again, I know that a lot of chefs are like me. They're not English as a first language. So I didn't make the book too complicated. I make it very simple, easy to understand. Anyone can read it. And it tells you anything about how to find the clients, how to find your next jobs as a private chef. How do you get started? How do you create a portfolio? How do you price yourself? Because again, if tomorrow you come from a restaurant and you say, okay, off you go, you're now a private chef, good luck. How are you going to price yourself? Are you pricing per day? Are you pricing per week? Are you pricing per person, per meal? Like there's a lot that goes into it. And then the next step after that is, okay, now you have your website. What should be on your website? This is something as well that's quite important is, do you have one page? Do you have 2 pages? Do you have 5 pages? And, how do you promote yourself? You should have a Google My Business online, because then people can find you. They can leave you reviews with 5-star. So there is a lot of things. Do you have an Instagram account if you don't have a website? So there's a lot of things you can do to become and to be a more visible private chef. And this is very important for the chefs, because when you start running your own business, no one else gonna pay your bills. So you have to make sure you find the clients. And one of the quick way, Furkan, if we have enough time, one of the quick ways to help chef get started is there is a few platforms. And again, I'm not gonna say these platforms are amazing and they're not long term, because this platform, they take a big cut of your earning. There is Take a Chef, there is Yangri, there is this is a way to get your first gigs as a private chef, because it's a good way. 100%. You can still work in a restaurant and you have days off, and you can open these 2 days when you're off and become a private chef and just do a few small venues. You can do, you can do weddings, you can do bachelorette parties, you can do, I don't know, there's a lot of different formats you can do. That's how you can start. And so you don't have to quit your job just yet. You can also just get a little sample and see if you like it. Another good way, Furkan, that people don't think about is the Airbnb experiences.
Yeah,
now
true.
On Airbnb, they are pushing toward real life, IRL experiences. And they want chefs and they want local professional to give an experience. So if you're in Spain, why not doing like an Airbnb paella experience? Why not doing a tapas experience? And then people can just book you out for one night and you just have a good time with them. You show them the local market, and then you go and you cook tapas with them, or you prepare tapas with them, or paella. So this is another way to get into the private chef market that people don't always think about.
Yeah, there's many layers to it, and I feel that's what I mean. I think completely with you on this. I feel a lot of these careers and paths we speak about on the podcast, I always tell people that do not get into something just because it sounds cool, just because it sounds like it was something you want. I think having a little skin in the game and having a secure economic setup with a restaurant job or with whatever full-time job it is, I think you always perform better. But of course, you have lesser time and you wouldn't be able to give your 100%. But it'll be worse when you're looking for clients all the time and you're not focused on your purchasing, on your accounting, on the website. So also, I think I'm going to put a link to the book in the comments, in the description, because I feel you said initially it's a very lonely path. It's alone. You don't have the camaraderie. You don't have the team. So I feel it's guides like you, podcasts like these, stories like yours, which help people to have this reference material to go back to. And there's a lot of reference material, honestly, also, but it's not always verified. It's not always somebody who has actually been in it writing it. There's a lot of AI guides today out there, but you really need somebody who's done it, who has resources, who can tell you the things that you're not even estimating. This is like the Google business you said. I think these are the things that don't come at a first thought when you think of the business.
No,
it only comes after you've made mistakes, right?
Yeah. And visibility is, once you get started and when you start your own business, it's difficult. Like no one starts a business and become, successful overnight, or even after the first year or the second or the third. It takes a while, and you want to make sure you put all the advantage on your side and make sure you can get your business going and you can, pay your rent and pay your bills, because it's great to run your business, but it's hard to find the clients, and there's a lot of things you need to do right. And luckily, don't get me wrong, AI is also there to help you. So you can also go into ChatGPT in one of these LLM and just say, hey, I want to start my private chef business. What should I do? And then you can also say, here is my website. Can you check it? What am I missing? Because again, we could get into SEO and how to get your website better, because that's what I built with Moncler Chef is, our website is really, really strong now. We have a very strong SEO, and we have, when you go onto LLMs and you ask who's the best private chef agency in the world,
Oh, wow.
we often come up as the number one. And that took, almost 3 years to just create content and be online and create a strong website and create the right pages. And there's a lot you can do to help you be in front of the people that are looking for a private chef. So that's something you need to do. And again, Furkan, about the portfolio, the chef portfolio, there's also something I want to say here is we've created chefsview.co, which is 100% free. You go online, you go into chefsview.co, and you can create your chef's portfolio up to 6 pages and up to 6 photos per page, I think. You have, I think, 7 different templates. Go there, it's free. I don't make any money on it. It's something we've created for our chef because we had a lot of chefs that they were maybe a little bit older or they didn't have time. They didn't know how to make a portfolio. And some people don't want to use the Instagram page as their portfolio. So I said, okay, why don't we create a platform for chefs? And then we did that. We launched it, I think, 6 months ago. And I think we've got about 500 chefs that have used it and taken advantage of it. Go there, it's free. You get a PDF portfolio. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on your computer. It's going to take literally 2 minutes. You just upload the photo, choose a template, put your name, download, you've got a PDF. And then you can attach that to any application when you look for a private chef job. So that's super useful.
That's super useful, tangible asset that people can immediately make use of. So everybody who's listening, go there. I'm going to put that in the description as well. That's again a very resourceful information. I feel there is this digital drawbacks and digital, I don't know, handicaps for some people. And then if there are tools like this which simplify it, also like to compare it. Sometimes you just want something quick and for your first gig. And I feel that's like you're taking out all the. Yeah,
they don't have
100%.
time. And so anything we can do, anything I can do to help them. And again, that comes down to why did I write the book? Because I wish when I started, there was someone that could have told me everything that I knew today. And if I can give that for free to chefs that are starting, that are motivated, that wants to work hard, because again, don't get me wrong, it's a hard industry. You're going to work really hard. But if you work hard and if you get to the right job in the right, amount of time, like you're gonna get a really, really nice, salary, nice earning, nice tips, and you're gonna succeed. But you just have to make sure you take the right steps and don't waste any time. Just if you can get the right information, just get it and then go for it.
Definitely. And I feel like first step is exposure. So maybe the one who's listening out there did not know about this world. So at least now you know it. And you don't just know it, you heard the story from somebody who's gone through this path and is helping others get in the path. He's given you resources. He's given you a book. He's given you a template to make your portfolio. So I think if somebody really seriously wants to get in there, especially now with the reach of AI and LLMs, there is no excuse to not be able to pursue this path. Before I let you go, Chris, I have to ask you this question because I do this with all the people I have on the podcast because for me, it's very beautiful when I'm listening in the edit and like I hear the whole journey of the person starting off in school, getting to restaurants and going in these atypical paths. When you look back, Chris, for you, when you have been in Michelin-starred kitchens, then yachts, then being in with the private families, and today you are somebody who's placing chefs inside these elite environments. What is it that about, I would say, being a chef, through being a chef before and now building a business, what part of being a chef that you think you did not understand when you started, but today you have that knowledge? What has changed for you in the title of being a chef?
I think being a chef, and the reason I've been asking this question to myself quite a lot.
Yeah.
I think the reason why I was a chef and why we are chefs is we're just trying to make people happy around us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very hard job because you have to work so hard. You have to take so much onto yourself to really deliver the best service. And I think it comes down to service and all of that just because you want people around you to be happy and you want them to have a good time. And you put a lot of yourself, a lot of your time into that to deliver an experience to people. And this is something that, it's hard to really put your finger on it. What is it? Why are we doing this? Why are we spending so much time? Why are we so dedicated, so obsessed with, creating the perfect dish and the perfect recipe? At the end, it's just because we're a people pleaser. We just want people to be happy, and doesn't matter if it's your boyfriend, girlfriend, family, your guest, your boss. Like you just create an experience, and that's something that is it's beautiful. And I wish that this profession is just gonna keep going. And there's a lot of bots out there. There's a lot of, but I don't think they're gonna replace the chefs just yet. Maybe they'll make their sandwich, and maybe they'll be in McDonald's and they'll just put the burgers together. That's fine. They can do it. They can take it. But I feel like this level of of service and this level of skills, it's gonna take a while before we get replaced. So, just keep cooking.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Chris. I feel you've summed it up very well of like being a chef doesn't have to be just physically serving a guest or physically being at the McDonald's, wrapping the burger and putting it. I feel that's the least part of being a chef. I think what you said through your answer is that it's about serving an experience, and that can be through putting the right chefs with the right families who will be maybe without you, they will struggle to have 10 interviews and have the right chef. So I feel you're still delivering an experience, which is through food, which has a food as a big element. So I feel that is why the idea I'm pushing with the podcast is that we all are chefs. It's just that we do different things. And I think we are all collectively building a better future for chefs to be in this business and to be more comfortable. It's only when you step out, you make better systems for the system that you were in and felt difficult. You can only step outside and make better systems for those inside it. So thanks so much. I feel through this episode, we have not only typically we are uncovering different paths, but what we've done today is not just, opened a new career path that can look like, but your career also moves into space where food, lifestyle, relationship, trust, all these levels of interactions with food have showed up in different ways. So if someone wants to learn more about you or Michelin Chef, I'm going to put all the links on the description. But thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Fokan. It was a pleasure, and let's do another episode. I feel like
100%
more to say.
I would love to. We have to do a second part again. Thank you so much for now.
Thanks, Fokan.
If you're still listening and this episode opened a new perspective for you, follow the podcast, rate it, or share it with someone who might need to hear this. Because most chefs don't even realize how many paths exist outside the restaurant kitchen. I will see you in the next episode.